Hi, I'm Rachel Durstein. I like to make these little zipper pouches, and today I want to show you how. I have some different size ones, but this one is probably the most practical one. It's a little wallet. It's 5 inches across and has a zipper on the top. It's 4 inches down, has a zipper on the front so you can put coins or credit cards in there. You can put your cash in here, maybe a lipstick. They're really easy to do, and I'd like to show you how, so please watch. Okay, the materials you're going to need to make the double zipper pouch are, for your outer fabric, you need one piece of 6 by 5, one piece of 6 by 3 1/4, and one piece of 6 by 1 3/4. Then for your lining, you need 2 pieces that are 6 by 5. You need one piece that is 6 by 3 3/4 and one piece that is 6 by 3 1/4. Then this is my interfacing that I use. It's called Boso. I get it in a big package like this. It's Boso Inner Form. I get it online. You can look on any number of places, fabric.com, or you can look on their website and see what stores carry it. You can get deals online if you just watch and shop. Okay, I get the sew in, and I don't actually sew it in. I just create the form of the bag and then plop it in before I sew the lining shut. You'll see what I mean. And I get it in 36 by 58 size. You can get it in smaller sizes. And then also you need 2 zippers that are 6 inches long at least. If you're getting a regular zipper from Joann's or somewhere, AC Moore, you're going to probably have to get a 7-inch zipper. But for this purpose, it only needs to be 6 inches. You can cut it down. And I get my zippers by the yard. And I also get my long pulls in bulk. So just Google zipper by the yard or look on Etsy or wherever you want to, and you'll see that you can get good deals on this. You just have to take the time to put the pulls on, but that'll work. So those are your materials. Also, one thing I forgot to mention is that I interface everything with a fusible Shape Flex. It's called Shape Flex. You can get it at Joann's. And I fuse it to the back of all my fabrics that I'm going to use for the bag, especially if I'm using quilting weight or light fabric like that. If you're using decorator weight, drapery weight, or heavier, you certainly don't have to do that. It's not necessary. Okay, so our first step is to lay your 6 by 3 1/4 inch outer fabric down on your surface face up. Put your zipper face down, and the pull is going to be up facing that way. Okay, so your zipper is face down, your lining is face down, and you're going to sew with your zipper foot right along that seam there. So let's take it to the machine and do that. I've got my outer fabric, which is 6 by 3 1/4, and then I'm going to line up my zipper face down on that, and my lining, same size as the outer piece, 6 inches by 3 1/4. I'm lining them all up, and I'm going to stitch down with a zipper foot. So here we go. And I'm going to just pull that zipper foot down a little bit so that it's not in the way. And then I'll pull it past the zipper foot and keep sewing to the end. I like to use these little tabs. You don't waste as much thread, and it doesn't bunch up at the beginning quite as much. Okay, So then what you have is the front bottom and the lining bottom. I'm going to go press this and then I'm going to top stitch it. Okay, and I'm going to top stitch what we just did. And there you go. Okay, it's a nice finished look. There's the inside, there's the outside. So now we have the part that we just finished. This is the lining piece that is 6 by 3¼ It's a little bit longer than this inside lining piece. And that's just so that the pocket will be closed when you open it up. Okay, and then this is the top part of the bag, and you don't need any lining behind that. The pocket will not extend up into that part. Okay, we'll have a full lining for the inside of the bag, but we're not doing that part yet. So I'm going to line this all up like this and go stitch it and be right back. All right, so I just finished sewing this. And I also top stitched it. So I have the seam facing up and I top stitched that. Now this, I am also going to stitch around this so that all these, see here, there's the top layer, the pocket front and the pocket back. And it would be good to stitch these all together and make sure that they're closed. And now I've stitched all the way around there. So this front piece goes face up first. Then the zipper to the main compartment is going to go along that top side, face down. And then we have the lining fabric that's going to go on top of that. And we do another stitch along the zipper with the zipper foot. So let me go do that and I'll be right back. Now here's the constructed front part. We have the lining all done. Top zipper is already put on there. So we are now going to layer the large lining piece down first and then the constructed top. I did a little trimming here, so it's gotten a little bit smaller, but that doesn't matter. Okay, and then the back outer layer is going to go on top of there, and we sew along that side along the zipper. Now I've got everything constructed, the back, the front, the two sides of the lining. So now we're going to start pinning the lining to the lining and the outside layer to the outside layer. So one thing you have to remember when you're doing a zipper is that the teeth of the zipper always need to be facing the lining. Okay, don't make the mistake of having them face this way toward the outside or it'll get a funny pleat in it. So have the teeth facing the lining. And also I lay the teeth flat. So they're facing the lining, but instead of being perpendicular to the lining, I have them a little bit turned flat like that. Because otherwise I'm afraid the, well, I know that the needle on my machine is going to break. These are number 3 zippers, but still, my needle has broken enough times that I want to be really careful about that. Okay, so these seams are facing toward the right side of the fabric, and the teeth in there are facing toward the lining. Okay, then you pin all the way around. Okay, so you do the same thing on this side. The teeth go toward the lining and just lay them a little bit flat. Okay. And pin everything down. Now this is going to cause your ends of the lining or the outside of the bag to not match up here. You're going to see that one side is longer than the other, but you're just going to trim it. And I usually make it so the front of the bag is the shorter end, so I'm not trimming anything off the front. I'd rather trim off the back than trim off the front. So you need to have everything pinned on the sides so it's real flat. Okay, and then we're just going to trim a little off the edge there. You can use your scissors or your rotary cutter. And then these somehow ended up being exactly even. I don't know how that happened. But I'm also going to trim just a little bit off of this. You want your lining to be shorter than the outside of your bag because we're going to be making a stiff inside with this Bosal inner form. And so that makes the inside considerably smaller space than the outside. So you want to trim a little bit off that. Also, when you sew, you're going to be sewing from here all the way around the outside. You're doing a 1/4 inch seam, but when you come down in your lining and you're sewing down here, you're going to make your seam fatter and fatter as you go. You're going to start stitching in a little closer to the inside. And then also I'm going to make this seam quite fat here. Now you do need to keep an opening. So you might want to mark with pins or with a pencil or something. You know what? The pins don't mean much to me, so for marking. So just like make a little mark there, a little mark there. Actually make it, for this tiny bag, you want them over a little bit, okay? And then you're going to stitch. As you're coming down here, you're going to come in closer and closer, and then you're going to stitch to about there. Same thing here. It's going to go closer and closer like that. That's how the stitch is going to look. One more thing to remember before we sew that, look inside and make sure that your zipper is open part way. Now on these zipper by the foot, the pull goes back and forth really easily. You can open it even if you forgot. But on a store-bought zipper, like a YKK zipper, they lock and there's no way you can open it up. So make sure that you open that zipper up, that you have an opening in there. Okay. Another thing I want to be sure and mention is that I switch to a walking foot when I'm doing all these layers and stitching around the edge of the bag. I don't use a zipper foot. You can use a regular foot, but it's just my preference. I think things work out better with a walking foot. So I don't have batting in here, but it is pretty, there are pretty many layers. So here we go. So, as I'm going over the zipper teeth, I tend to slow down. I also back tack just to make sure that there's extra reinforcement there. And then remember, you have another set of zipper teeth that you're going over right here. You can feel it. So back tack over that. I felt something happening there. And it looks like I held down my button a little too long. There we go. Okay, so I continue going all the way around. I use a knee lift. If you're wondering how I raise my foot without my hands, I like using a knee lift, and makes life a lot easier for me. So, oops, I went over those teeth and I got a back tack. So here we go again. And then I'm going to go over these teeth. Go slow, you don't want to break a needle. Back tack. And then one more little thing that I always do, since I do sell my bags, and you can do this too. There's people on Etsy who sell you these ribbon name labels, and I like the kind that you fold and sew right into the seam, because it's a seam you're going to stitch anyway, and has my logo on it. So I just slide that right in here in the lining, so it's going to be on the inside of the bag. And here we go, stitch right over it, and it is securely inside. Okay, and then back tack, and I'm going to stitch off onto my little tag there. All right. So another thing you can do is trim off your little corners. It doesn't matter so much in the lining, but all the bulk that you can get rid of would be good. Okay, trim that off. Trim all this off. Don't trim into what you stitched, but just get rid of all that excess. So now we're ready for the great reveal. We are going to go into one corner there and pull it through. And I like to take my scissors and just punch it out a little. Don't take a tiny, sharp scissors. That would not be good. Take a bigger scissors that has a little more of a blunt end. And push that corner out a little. Okay, it's important for it to look finished. Okay, and then you can see how it's going to look. All right, I'm keeping the lining out. I'm not going to stuff it in quite yet. We're not quite ready for that. But see, we have an inside pocket with the lining facing you. It's real pretty. There's the back. Okay. Now we're going to sew the inner form. Okay, so you have this long piece of inner form, and you're going to fold it up, and you definitely want a walking foot for this part because this is very thick. And again, it's not the fusible kind that I'm using. All right, so you're stitching along here. You want to back tack at the top, although you might be trimming it off, so down to the bottom. Oops. Okay, forgot to do my little tag there. Okay, and then you're going to do the same thing on the other side. Let me adjust this a little. Okay. So, here we go. So then what you have to do is eyeball it. You need to look where your seams are. Try to get this so you can see it. So kind of look where your seams are. Do they line up with the outside of the bag? I can see here that I overestimated the width of the bag. I guess I did a bunch of trimming. And so it got a little narrower. So I'm going to actually make one side of it quite a bit deeper, the seam quite a bit deeper. And then trim that up. Let's take another look. And that looks like it's going to be perfect. So you turn it inside out. Okay, looks great. Now, the other thing you have to check before you put it in there is how tall it is. And it looks to me like it's going to be right up against the teeth. You want this Bosul to be below where that top stitching is. It's got to be below where that top stitching is by a little bit. So I'm going to trim some off of here. So once you do a bunch of these, you'll get the hang of it. Okay, that's perfect. So it's okay to have that much sticking up here. So when we're going to put the Bosul inside, I just fold it in thirds and then stuff it down inside. And look, some of these stitches already came out. But let's get this in here. And then you gotta kind of unfold it. You can't see what you're doing. You have to just feel what you're doing. Okay, push the corner down in the corner of the bag and then turn it around and do the same thing on the other side. Okay, it looks great. Now, before I'm going to fix that little stitch, and then we're going to change thread color and sew the lining closed. All right, so we're ready to stitch the lining closed. So I like to kind of finger press this top lining here and then finger press the bottom opening of the lining. Okay, and then we're going to line them up. And you got to make sure that they're evenly lined up. You might want to pin them. I usually don't, but I want it to go right while I'm showing you, so I think I will. Got to make it good for you. Okay, so I'm going to go off of this and start with my needle up. Okay, I'm going to start right there and back tack and then go right along the edge, really close to the edge. Make sure that you're catching the bottom, but you're still very, very close to the edge. Then it'll have a nice finished look. I switched to the gray thread so that it would match the lining a little better. Okay, and let's go back on there. There we go. Oops. Okay, so that looks good. Then you're going to feel with your fingers where that inner form is, and then stuff the lining down inside. And in a tiny little bag this size, you're not going to have a whole lot of room for that lining. That's why we made the seam so small. And there you can see inside, it looks pretty finished, pretty nice. And you can see right here where that inner form ends. You can see why I left so much room there. Okay, there's my logo. It looks great. And here we close it. Here's the front opening. Looks nice and finished. Lining all matches. There's the back. Okay, great little wallet. I hope you enjoyed making that little double zipper pouch, and I hope you will share. If you think you have friends who might like that, please share it and subscribe to my channel. Thanks.